Hi guys, give me 1 second here. Let's pull this up. All right. Welcome 102 students to my home office where I am putting together all the material to move this course online. This is totally different and new for me. I haven't done stuff like this, but I was thinking that hopefully the best way to get information across to you might be putting together some PowerPoints and videos like this. It might be super boring. I make no promises. But this is the best way I can figure out how to communicate with you guys. So I've got one lecture video for you this week. We'll be talking about picking a topic and managing the research process, as you can see. Next week, I'll probably have 3 or 4 more of these for you on various topics about writing the research paper. Again, apologies if this is a really boring video, but this is the best I can come up with right now. We're all just going to have to try to get through the rest of this class as best we can. So at this point, you should have already read through the assignment sheet for your Unit 3 research paper. If you haven't done that yet, go read through it. All the information is there, but if you have any questions about the assignment, please feel free to email me. I don't want any confusion. So write your assignment, Unit 3. We're taking everything that we learned in Unit 1 and in Unit 2 about secondary research and primary research, and we are now plugging that into a big, final, formal research paper, okay? So your main objectives this week, 2 main objectives. First, you will need to pick your topic, and you have to submit your topic proposal by the end of the week, all right? So you've got to choose a topic, you've got to figure out what you're writing about, and then second, you really need to get going on starting your research. Because I had to cut a week out of this unit, it's going to move really quick. You are going to have less time to work on your paper and your primary research, so you've really got to get moving as soon as you can. You've got drafts in progress due to me in just a couple weeks, and then 4 weeks from today, or whenever you're watching this video, is when your final paper is due. So you've got to move quick. So let's talk about picking a topic. All right. Here's some guidelines for you to be thinking about. First, I want to stress, and this is in the assignment sheet, but just as a reminder, the topic that you choose for your research paper needs to be related to our course theme of language, literacy, and writing. All right, so that was true in Unit 1, it was true in Unit 2, it is still true in Unit 3. Got to be related to our overall course theme, language, literacy, and writing, okay? However, that being said, I still strongly recommend that you consider your interest and start there. Think about what your major is, think about, or your minor, or your hobbies, or anything that really interests you, and think of a way that language or communication intersects with your interests, okay? So that's a good place to start. Also consider the past topics, what you wrote about in Unit 1, all that research you did for Unit 1, and what you wrote in Unit 2, what your analysis at the end and your conclusion, if you talked about how you could work this into a larger research project. If either one of those topics were interesting or intriguing to you, use that work. You're more than welcome to build off what you did in Unit 1 or Unit 2. So go ahead and work with past units if you want to. However, if you didn't love so much your topic in Unit 1 or Unit 2, then you are welcome to start completely over from scratch. Choose an entirely new topic. If you want, I've given you a whole bunch of student examples. Let's see, I think that's in Step 4. In Step 4, I've given you a whole bunch of past student papers, so look through those to see what other students have written about. You can go back to Unit 1, where I had all of those Bill Bryson Mother Tongue chapters. Look through those for some inspiration. Do some more preliminary secondary research. Just see what you can find that sparks your interest as far as choosing a topic, okay? Let's see, I think it is Step 4 and Step 5 are of this week are activities that are designed to help you generate some ideas and help us as a class work together to generate ideas for each other. So that is your main objective this week. Pick a topic and then write your topic proposal and submit that by the end of the week. All right. So now let's talk about the research that needs to be happening in this paper. All right. You are required to have 8 secondary sources as a minimum. All right. So if you do use your Unit 1 topic, for that assignment, you are only required to have 5 secondary sources. So you will have to do at least a little bit more secondary research, get 3 more sources. But for everyone else, if you're starting from scratch with a new topic, you're gonna have to find 8 secondary sources, all right? And I do recommend, like it says here, starting with your secondary research before really beginning your primary research. Now, you're gonna have to move quick on all of it, but it can be helpful to know what your secondary sources are going to be talking about before designing your primary research project or your primary research, or before conducting your primary research. It might help you formulate how you want to go about doing your primary research. So start the secondary research. If you remember, in Unit 1, we talked about the difference between academic and non-academic sources, and I required that you had sort of a half and half for that project. For this project, I don't have any specific requirements as far as you have to have so many non-academic or academic. However, what I'm going to advise is that you lean heavily academic, right? I want your sources to be as credible as possible, and academic usually is more credible. So I would strongly encourage you to stay away from non-academic sources as much as possible. It's going to depend on your topic. It's going to depend on the quality of the non-academic sources if you find them. Just know there's no hard set rules, but it is something I will be looking at when I'm grading your papers. How credible are your sources? And did you try? Did you work really hard to lean towards academic sources, participating in the academic conversation of your topic? You will need to evaluate all of your sources thoroughly, use only the highest quality of sources. So again, this is saying you can start with Wikipedia, but you can't actually cite Wikipedia in your place. Go to the bottom of Wikipedia where all the references are and go to actual sources there, right? We want really good quality sources, okay? Last piece of advice on secondary research here is find a system for managing your sources. This may look different for every student, but what I had you do in Unit 1 in creating an annotated bibliography, that's one system for organizing and keeping track of your sources. Just have a document that's like a working bibliography where you have a citation for each one of your sources, and then underneath you have notes. What is the argument of this source? What are the quotes that I want to be using for this source? How am I going to incorporate it in my paper? Just have sort of a working bibliography. Keep track of your sources, because there's nothing worse than when you're actually writing your paper thinking, oh yeah, I read something somewhere in one of my sources that would work here. Where was it? And then you have to go back through searching all your sources. So I recommend, strongly recommend, find a way to take notes on your secondary sources. Use index cards, have a Word document, something, some way to sort of track them and keep them organized, so that when you're working on your paper, it's easy to find what you need from your secondary research. Okay, let's talk about primary research, because I imagine this is going to be something new for you guys as far as incorporating actual primary research that you've done yourself into a formal research paper. I'm hoping at least that this is new for most of you, new and interesting and fun about this research paper. This is the goal of academia in general, what we do here at universities. We do primary research. So that's what I'm trying to introduce you guys to, this idea that you can do your own research. You can have your own thoughts and ideas and gather your own data and make your own observations and have it contribute to the conversation in with all of your secondary research. So let's talk about what kinds of primary research you can do. right? If you remember, Unit 2 was primary research. It was analyzing textual documents, your own writing. So you're welcome to use that if you can find a way to put it, fit it into your research paper. However, more options are open here. You can do any kind of primary research project, right? So you'll see the list here on this slide of different types of primary research. That includes surveys, interviews, systematic observation, experiments, data collection, and, as we did in Unit 2, the analysis of primary sources. So when you're thinking about the topic that you want to pick, you also really need to be thinking about what is the primary research project that you're going to be doing to support your topic. Are you going to be doing some surveys about language use? Are you going to interview somebody who's bilingual? Are you going to collect some samples of some social, I think I bring up this example later, social media samples and sort of analyze how kids are using slang, right? What are you going to do? What is the primary research that you can do on your topic? And all the options are open now. You can do any of these. So here are some guidelines, though, to help you think about how to design your project, right? You want to make sure that your primary research fits well with your topic and fits well with your secondary research, and that everything is about supporting a thesis statement or argument, all right? Now, I think I also say this later too, you don't need to construct your thesis statement first and then do your primary research and have it support that. You can do, and I strongly encourage, do your primary research project first and then write your thesis statement because it might influence how you make your argument. But you do want to make sure, I do recommend doing the secondary research first so that you can see the conversations that are going on in your topic, the things that you'll be talking about in your paper, and then design your primary research project to respond to that, to fit in with it in some way, right? Make sure that it's all connecting. Second thing to know, your primary research does not need to be technical or comprehensive. You don't have to worry about having, like statistically significant sample sizes or whatever that terminology is. This doesn't have to be at a professional level of primary research, all right? Because I understand we're limited on time here, we're limited on resources here. This is just your freshman writing class, so we don't necessarily need your primary research to be at a super professional level, but I do want you to make as good a faith effort as you possibly can. Put as much effort and thought and care into it as you can, all right? So on that note, that means plan and prepare. Take good notes, record your data well, get appropriate consent. These are important things. Let's see. Yes. I want to stress this right now, okay? We'll talk about this as far as professional level research, okay? Because you should be aware of this. Does your primary research involve human subjects? Meaning, are you doing a survey? Are you interviewing someone? Are you observing human interaction? If it does, I just want you to be aware that there are very strict guidelines in place in a professional research setting for how to deal with human subjects. Now, we don't necessarily have to follow those guidelines because you're not publishing your research. This is for educational purposes. So we don't have to follow those strict guidelines super closely. However, we still want to be responsible, right? So that means obtaining consent and permission in writing if possible. If you're doing an interview, just have the person sign something that says, yes, you can use my name, yes, you can use my words, something like that, right? If you do a survey, either indicate that everything's going to be anonymous, that there will be no identifying information, or have people click a button that says, I consent for you to use my name or my information or anything in your paper. But in general, you'll see, recommend that just keep people anonymous or use pseudonyms or protect privacy is the idea. We're just trying to be responsible here about protecting privacy. All right, that's what guidelines are about. stay away from children generally, right? It gets 10 times more complicated if we are involving children. And I have actually had students do projects involving children and language before, which have been a lot of fun, but you have to absolutely get parental consent. And I don't know, just be very careful, okay? Be very careful and be considerate and know that this is fairly serious, all right? Um, I also have some more guidelines on each one of these primary research project types in a handout that is step 3, I think. Step 3 has the handout. Look at that handout, read through it carefully, especially if you're planning to do a survey or an interview or one of these other types of primary research projects, okay? Okay, here is something else to keep in mind as you conduct all of your research. The goal of this entire paper is a keyword called synthesis, all right? And when I say the word synthesis, this is the image in my head. Synthesis means making things fit together, all right? So you're taking all of your secondary research, you're taking this primary research project, and you're making it fit neatly together underneath one thesis statement, all supporting one argument, all right? So you want to make connections between your various secondary sources, right? You want all of your secondary sources to sort of be talking together and be connected. And you want to make sure that your primary research connects to your secondary research. You want to make sure that you have that overarching thesis or argument that all of your research relates to and supports. Yes, like I said earlier, you may need to wait and formulate your thesis until after you've collected all your research and done your primary research project, just to make sure that your research actually supports the argument, right? And then in your paper, your goal is to really show how all of it connects and to make sure, this one's pretty key, to make sure that your tone doesn't change between talking about your secondary research and your primary research, okay? I'm going to talk more about this next week in a different PowerPoint, but this is one that trips students up a lot because so talking about the secondary research, you're really used to that. You can be using a really formal, impersonal, third-person tone, right? But then all of a sudden you're going to have to switch to talking about research you did. And you might be using personal pronouns. I conducted a survey. I interviewed this person. Um, I know these people. I collected these samples. And so you got to be careful in the way that you talk about your primary research. You can use personal pronouns. We'll talk about that because it might be really difficult to talk about your primary research otherwise, but you still need to keep your discussion of your primary research as technical, as formal, as academic as possible, right? You want to make sure that it all feels like a cohesive paper, that everything is working together, okay? So again, I'll come back to that topic more next week. I've got a few other, like I mentioned, a few other PowerPoints. I'll be walking you through everything, how to make a thesis statement, how to write an introduction, how to do body paragraphs and a conclusion, all how to integrate quotes from your research and use MLA. We'll cover all of those things next week in some more sort of PowerPoint videos like this one. Best way I have right now to communicate all of this information. So I hope this was useful for you and helps you out. Good luck with the rest of your assignments this week, right? Choosing your topic, doing all of the assignments that are about choosing your topic, and there's the discussion board that I've got up to help you guys share ideas with each other. So please take that seriously. Get your topic proposal into me by the end of the week and get going on your research. Email me if you have any questions. Good luck, guys. Hang on. There we go.